It's going to be Coventry City joining Luton Town at Wembley in the Championship playoff final. Here is how they did it. Wow, what a performance from Coventry last night. And wow, I'm not going to call it a shock. I think it's certainly fair to call this an underdog victory. I've said through the final weeks of the season that I thought the top four were a level above that 5th to 12th chasing pack, if that's not stating the bleeding obvious. And I thought it would be Borough winning this tie to go on and face Luton in the final. I was at the first leg at the weekend, very cagey. Borough, the better side through the first half. Coventry ended strongly. 0-0 meant a tense second leg in prospect up at the Riverside, where Borough had only lost to champions Burnley in the league under Michael Carrick. At half-time on the night in the second leg, it was still 0-0. Very little in it. Defences on top. Still no goals after 135 minutes of play. Talk about seizing your moment, though. Here come Coventry. And if the plan was to be really tight and unleash your star players, then how predictable is Victor Gyökeres running in behind to tee up Gus Hamer to bend the ball past a stranded Zach Steffen in goal. Borough huffed and puffed, but there was that sense, even with another 30 minutes to play, that as soon as that ball hit the net, this was going to be Coventry's night. And the pattern of the game could now be doubled down on by the Sky Blues with that goal advantage. Now, as I looked at the two managers on the touchline, I couldn't help but think back to my own experiences watching my team, Ipswich, managed by a young George Burley in the late 90s, playing lovely attacking football, continually getting in the playoffs, but 3 years in a row, Burley lost to wily managers Howard Kendall, Alan Kirbishley and Colin Todd. Now, you're probably sick of me banging on endlessly during playoff time about the difference between knockout football and league football, and the playoffs are frankly often about who makes that adjustment the better. In the league under Carrick, Middlesbrough were just shy of 2 points per game and were the top scoring team with the top scoring individual. Now, I wasn't in the training sessions, but it seems fairly obvious from the outside that Mark Robins very consciously decided to sit back over the two legs and try and seize their moment, knowing that Borough would swarm over them if they didn't. Maybe Borough have more quality in their 11, but everybody knows Coventry have two very high caliber match winners in Gus Hamer and Victor Gyökeres. Carrick obviously had his own plan for Gyökeres with Paddy McNair detailed, but you somehow knew if Coventry were going to win, it was going to be those two heavily involved. Now, I wouldn't be as disrespectful to suggest that Michael Carrick, who won club football's biggest knockout tournament under arguably English football's greatest ever manager, just sent out Borough with the same instructions as he would in a league game. But so early in his managerial career, it does look like he was just outworked in the dugout here by Mark Robins and didn't have an answer to what has turned out, with the benefit of hindsight, to be the better knockout strategy. For Borough, you would think things will be okay next season. They've played some lovely stuff this campaign, and if they continue to roll out the points per game under Carrick this season through the entirety of the next, they will be close on a 90-point season. We know, of course, 3 new parachute teams will be arriving from the Premier League. Norwich and Watford are still going to be around and probably not as bad as they've been this season. And it did need the sales of Spence and Tavernier to help stay the right side of FFP and bankroll their challenge this season. You'd think they might well need to do something similar next, but I would trust in Michael Carrick. For Coventry, take a bow. Incredible stuff after what was honestly a farcical start to the season. They found their way into the playoffs, and frankly, they've played a bit of a blinder to get through the semis. The narrative is now rightly going to be about the Sky Blues and fellow finalists Luton both finding their way back from the wilderness. I've got a vague recollection of both sides being in the top flight together in the early 90s, but both sides were actually in League Two as recently as 2018. We'll get into the build-up more next week. In the meantime, I was lucky enough to see both of the Championship player finalists in the flesh this past week. So click over here. You can see 2 match vlogs. First one, leg 1 of Coventry v Borough at the CBS on Sunday. Secondly was leg 2 of Luton versus Sunderland at the Kenny on Tuesday.